Before we get started, make sure to turn on post notification and subscribe to the channel. 10 backstage leaks Vince McMahon might be thinking about. Number 10. A Drew McIntyre push. Vince McMahon said it on Drew McIntyre's original debut when he complained he was the chosen one. The WWE chairman stated that McIntyre is the future world champion, and even though it has taken him being released and rehired, it seems that might actually be in the future. McIntyre's work speaks for itself in recent times, with his run on the independent scene being so good it forced WWE to bring him back, while his spell in NXT was equally as impressive. He has been pushed hard from the moment he returned to WWE's main roster and seems set to enter a huge feud with Braun Strowman, keeping him in the main event scene, and a big push to the World Championship could be in the cards for him in 2019. Number 9. No Chris Jericho. Throughout the vast majority of Chris Jericho's career, he has been seen as a Vince McMahon guy, often praising the WWE chairman for his genius and how much he has changed his career. Jericho is a WWE legend who's a future Hall of Famer one day, but that day might be put on hold for the moment, as it seems clear that Y2J's future is anywhere but WWE. With his music career taking off and Jericho expanding his wrestling outside of the company, with his work for New Japan Pro Wrestling gaining huge popularity and big paydays for Jericho, it is going to take something special to lure him back in, and Vince might need to start preparing for life without one of his most loyal talents. Number 8. Super Show in Russia. In recent years, we have seen WWE really make a push to grow its international market, with major shows popping up in totally different places to increase WWE's popularity, and it is a decision that appears to be working. We have had major shows in India, Tokyo, Saudi Arabia, and Australia recently, while WWE has expanded in the UK so much that it has now got its own division and show on the WWE network each week. One country that WWE might be eyeing on is Russia. The country has an incredible massive population, and if WWE could even get 1% of that to subscribe to the network, it would be a huge financial boost, and a big super show might help make that happen. Number 7. New Japan signings. When it comes to WWE raiding New Japan, everyone seems to presume that there's only Triple H interested in that happening, but let's not forget the last time WWE plucked 4 talent from the company and 3 of them went straight to the main roster. Vince McMahon certainly has an eye on things, especially the Elite, simply due to how much traction they have gained with things like All In, certainly piquing Vince's interest, as he always wants to know about his competition. While he might not know tons about them, perhaps even just that their name keeps being mentioned, if he hears the likes of Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks name on repeat, he's going to start paying attention. Number 6. Asuka's future. According to reports, Vince McMahon doesn't get Asuka, and that is certainly clear when you consider how she has been booked since WrestleMania, with her initial push and momentum all coming to a screaming halt. If Vince isn't a big fan of Asuka, possibly due to her language barrier, then this is an issue that he will certainly be thinking about, as he will need to determine whether or not he gives her the big title push everyone else knows she is capable of. It is going to be interesting to see what happens with Asuka moving forward, but if her in-ring work is allowed to do the talking for her, then everyone knows that the Empress of Tomorrow will be fine. Number 5. Stephanie's role at Evolution. WWE's highly anticipated first ever all-women's pay-per-view, Evolution, is right around the corner, and the rumor mill is going into overdrive regarding what could possibly happen on the show, and the leaked match card certainly helped that. It has been reported that Stephanie McMahon is going to have some form of big role on the show, potentially making another historic announcement in regards to the women's division. Many people believe it will be Stephanie who will finally announce the expected women's tag team championships, and if we know Vince McMahon, he's going to want her to have a big role, so you can expect her to be involved in some way. Number 4. John Cena's future. Whether Vince McMahon likes it or not, John Cena's slipping out of his fingers just like The Rock did before him. Cena has become too big of a name in Hollywood, with his acting career now booming, and sadly, this means less in-ring time for him. While Cena is unlikely to leave for as long as The Rock did, as his schedule becomes more and more packed, it is going to be very hard for Vince to rely on him every time a big show comes up, and WWE needs a big name. Whether Vince plans a few more storylines around Cena before it's too late, or simply waits and sees what happens, remains to be seen. But there's no doubt that this is a situation Vince has spent a long time thinking about. Number 3. Hulk Hogan's return. While one of the greatest ever poster boys might be returning to a full-time schedule or even a part-time schedule, arguably his biggest ever creation, Hulk Hogan's highly speculated to be making a major comeback in the near future. This is likely a situation that Vince has been thinking about, ever since the day he had to remove Hogan from the Hall of Fame, with the Immortal One being one of the biggest stars that the company has ever had. Vince has already brought him back into the Hall of Fame and will now likely be plotting about the best strategy to get him back on screen in front of his fans in what is going to be a very tough situation. Number 2, a Survivor Series main event. While he has Evolution and the controversial Crown Jewel, which is likely something he is thinking a lot about to deal with first, the next major pay-per-view happens to be one of the classic Big Four events, Survivor Series. With the show now being so close, Vince is certainly going to be thinking about what will close the show, with several leaks already pointing at 2 major matches, one of which is a traditional 5-on-5 for the control of Raw. The other, perhaps more interesting leak, is that Vince is hoping to have a rematch between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels in what would be a major blast of nostalgia and would no doubt be a fantastic way to end the show. Number 1, WrestleMania 35 plans. This is something that Vince is likely thinking about every single year, with WrestleMania being the single biggest wrestling show on the planet that brings with a lot of pressure and that all falls onto his shoulders. Each year, the event seems to get bigger and grander in scale, and with that comes added expectations for major matches, great storylines, and surprises, all of which have to be created by Vince McMahon. While some of the ideas that roll around come WrestleMania season seem incredibly random, the fact is that most of them all well thought out months in advance, and with the road to WrestleMania now around the corner, his brain is likely going into overdrive.